Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's a special primetime edition of live streaming here on the channel. Normally, we do the Comics Aficionados on Saturday mornings, but it's a special day. I've got two of my good friends here, Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini. We're going to talk about their new Indiegogo campaign, Walmart Gold Standard. Tim, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing, Wes?
I'm doing pretty good. I finally got a haircut. It was getting unbearably hot here. Unfortunately, there were no barbers, and I didn't really trust my wife to fade up my hair, so we just cut it off.
Mr. Cleaned it. All right.
You look like a pro wrestler. It's a great look.
Well, thank you. You should have seen it when the beard was like down to here. I look like Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah, you gotta put the rubber band on your beard so you look like Mario Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah. Captain Lou Albano, yeah. The rock and wrestling days. Obviously, his partner in crime, his creative, the writing force behind Walmart, Black Ops, the other projects they do. Mark Pellegrini, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
All right, guys. So this is pretty insane. I remember the last time that you did one of these Walmart campaigns. It did pretty good, but not quite as good as maybe some of your other campaigns. Obviously, the third edition in the story is going directly to Antarctic Press, going right into stores. So you guys have got an omnibus, a trade paperback. What are all the details?
Yeah, so Walmart Gold Standard combines 3 books together. It combines our original My Hero MAGAdemia, which as of yesterday is going to go into a 9th printing. If you go to Antarctic Press, it's sold out, as is Walmart First Term Part 2, which is the sequel. That was our crowdfunded book that we did right after Trump Space Force, which was Chuck Dixon's work. And we crowdfunded that one. And that is going to be part of the omnibus collection in its full format, the way it was done originally for the crowdfund. And then the third book coming out is the Magalorian, which is going to be in stores via Antarctic Press on August the 26th. And the dilemma that we had, which is why we kind of put it off for so long, is that Antarctic Press really wanted that book. And so we said, that's fine. It kind of takes the campaigning off of our hands. We negotiated a deal. But obviously with everything going on, there was a delay. And so I just asked them, I said, hey, in good faith, what do you want us to do? Because we really want to have this out in time for November. But the way things are looking between our Black Ops campaign and our Common America campaign, it's going to be really tight to try and fit that in somewhere. And Antarctic Press said, well, you should be making as much money as you possibly can. So it's no skin off our backs to have you release it in the format that's combined, because the reader still has a choice. They can either buy the book individually if they already have the 2 other editions in stores, or if they don't have any of them, this is a good opportunity for you to just give it all to them all at once. So we were very thankful for them for being understanding, and they were very encouraging in terms of doing that. So that's what we have with the Walmart Gold Standard.
So Walmart Gold Standard, you get, it's going to include My Hero MAGAdemia, Walmart, the first book that really puts you on the map after Thump the First Bunder Days, which really wasn't a comic book. It was a graphic novel. We're going to get Walmart First Term Part 2, which was the first one that's crowdfunded. And then the third one is going to be Walmart 3, the Magalorian, which is going directly into comic shops. But there's more to this this book as well. What is some of the new material that's being added for readers?
So you're going to get pretty much every cover that we've done. We've done a couple of variants. We did obviously a full page spread. You have the retail exclusive. So basically as much extraneous art that we did for it is going to be in the book. The other thing that we had not announced, we wanted to be a surprise, but we're just going to, I guess, spoil it since we already talked about it in the campaign. The Magalorian is actually only part of part 3. We did a side story with 2 writers who they wish to remain anonymous, and so we put their names as pen names. But there's a side story called Goblin Slayer, and that makes up the last part of the book. And I think you were the one who to break the news, Wes, but Dave Dorman did our cover for the Magalorian, and so one of the things that they're getting is the virgin version of it, so without the trade dress. And for people who don't know what trade dress is, it's all the things like the title logo, the pub. We're actually doing that cover as the back cover without anything, so people can enjoy the Dorman artwork without any interruption.
And they're also getting the backup that was exclusive to Walmart First Term Part 2. It was a short comic called Walmart Gaiden Me More Memoir, which is hard to say. That one was in the crowdfund edition, but it wasn't in the retail edition. So for people who only got the retail edition, now's your chance to get that missing story.
So that's awesome. Obviously, this thing has been a huge success. We gotta look at some of the numbers here. This is in a limited edition. And Tim, what's the thinking behind releasing these as limited edition? Like, so basically, when you start the campaign, these are already printed, correct?
Yes, if they're not already printed, then the order is already going through. So everything that we do from now on, all the material is finished. When we release the campaign, typically we're in the stage where the quotes have already come in, and all that we have to do is just compile the book and send the files to the printer. And it's a give and take. Like, I think this is the part that can get kind of iffy, is determining how many books to print. Because obviously you don't want to go too little, and you don't want to go too much, because then you're sitting on overhead and potentially some books that you're never going to sell. And so our logic behind it is we want to be known as the guys who will deliver on time. And we have made it to this point in 2 years to have the luxury of saving enough capital that we can actually print ahead of time and not have to worry about the funding necessarily to go through, which is why on our campaigns, we really don't call them campaigns. We call them pre-orders. Because as of this morning, for example, I've sent Walmart Gold Standard to API Print Productions, who are based out of Tennessee. They print all of Doug TenNaples' books. That's ready to go, and it's a hard order. So once I put that number in, it's gone. And I'm really sorry for people who contact me and they say, hey, where can I find Common America, for example? Because that's what I'm going through right now. Is I'm going through a backlog of people saying, hey, I missed the campaign. How do I get Common America? And it's just, I'm really sorry. They're limited. I encourage you to follow us on social media so that next time we have a pre-order go up, you can back it right away and not have to wait. But, good news is that we do have reprints in the future down the line, but you're just going to have to wait a while for those to go through.
Yeah, what a lot of people do with their campaigns is, you give your money to the campaign and they use the money that you give them to produce the book. With us, we take the money from our previous campaign and we use that to produce our next one in advance. And that's how we're able to do the pre-order system. So the book's all already done and ready to go. We're always one book ahead in our releases. That's why, like, right now I'm writing Common America 2 and Tim's finishing up drawing Black Ops 3. So we're always a step ahead.
So basically, the final product ends up being how many pages?
So for this one, it's about 112, 114. So give or take a few pages. I put 110 because that's the bare minimum for sure. And then the rest of it is just a compilation in terms of what I want to put in and what I don't. It's not necessarily what I don't. It's just the idea of how much stuff do I actually have. So as of my final count this morning, I think it depends on the semantics. If you're counting the end sheets or the inside pages, you're looking at about 114 pages, if I'm not mistaken.
So 114 pages. You can get a digital copy for $7. That is absolutely that is bonkers, sir. That is a great price. You can also get the $20 book, and that's limited. You've already sold 391 out of 600 copies, so there's only a little over 200 left. And you completely sold out of your special editions. What was another brick in the wall?
So I actually got this advice from your channel, because Mark and we're readers of comics, but I don't think we're necessarily collectors. We're just collectors in the sense that we read, and if it means that we have to pick up X number of volumes, we do it. But listening to like the comics aficionados, for example, I'm learning a lot about comics culture from other comics readers who have a different mindset. And one thing that kept on popping up was, oh, I always buy 2 copies, one to collect and one to read. And I just thought that to me is kind of unusual because I've never done that before. But that's okay, because just because we don't do that doesn't mean that other people do. So I just thought, okay, let's do one where if you want 2 copies, you can get it, and we'll cut you a deal on the second copy. Essentially, you get free shipping is what it boils down to when you do the math. And that shocked me, because I said, I'm just going to try this out. Let's just put 100 out there, so 50 altogether, because that's 50 times 2. And I was honestly flabbergasted yesterday when I saw, like, are you serious? Like, we already sold out of that? That's crazy.
Sold out immediately.
Yeah. Same thing with signatures. Signatures are a funny one because Mark and I, like, we're not celebrities or anything. I think like we were talking to a CGC rep one time, and apparently they kind of have like this internal system for what they think a person's autograph or signature is worth. And it's like, well, yours is probably worth like $3.50 to $5 or something. And this was like years ago. And so I'm just like, I normally don't charge for signatures or anything like that, but people just kept on clamoring. They're like, we want something signed. And so the problem is that Mark and I live in two different states, Arkansas and Texas, respectively. So it's like, well, if you want the signatures, that means that we're going to have to do some shipping as far as the books are concerned, because we got to go through state lines at least twice for these things to get out. But, we listened to feedback. People like the signatures, so we decided to bring them back. It's not something that, like I said, I'm particularly attached to, but if it makes our readers happy, then that's great.
And full disclosure for everybody, our signatures aren't impressive looking. So if you think our signatures suck, like aesthetically, they look like crap. I mean, there are real signatures, so that's just the way they look.
All right. So is there any thoughts to maybe with the another brick in the wall, one being a signed book and then one being a reading copy?
Oh my gosh, that
would be the one that I would.
Oh man. Yeah, you know what? Let me think about that one, because what we were discussing a little bit before about what happens if we sell out. And if you're listening and you're kind of scared, or if you're waiting for a paycheck to come in, don't worry, because if we sell out prematurely, we always have a safeguard. Even though I print X amount of books, what happens at the very end is if I need to, I'll liquidate the overstock. So we still have a little bit of time to kind of think of that. But that's a great one. I never thought about that. So I guess we're going to have a huddle with our fulfillment company and see if that's something we want to do with our overstock as far as opening that tier up. And I'll have to send you a few copies for thinking about that, Wes. That's a great idea.
Well, that would be great. I didn't tell you guys this before we started. I wish I had my knife with me, but just yesterday, I finally received my Black Ops Hair Trigger comic from Doug Ernst. He forgot to bring it when he came and visit, and he finally shipped it, and I got it 3 or 4 months later. And I'm waiting to open it up and see those beautiful signatures.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, he had I guess other priorities for sure, doing the mission trip and all that, and all the strangenesses that has happened across the world. So I'm glad that you finally got it.
All right, we got our first tough question here, Tim. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
How would you sell this to someone who, let's say, not totally okay with the imagery of our president?
I think the way I would sell it is that the best compliment that we've gotten at conventions is people who they can't tell our political affiliation by reading it. So after they read it, they're like, holy cow, that was hilarious. And then they'll say something that will kind of tell me that they're not pro the president at all. And I just kind of sit there and smirk, and I'm like, okay. The way I think about it, I guess I'll hand this off to Mark, is that I feel like, because humor, even though humor can be very subjective, I think there are things that can be crafted so that they're naturally funny, no matter what. And I think that part of parody and satire is that you can capture the essence of something and draw attention to it that is humorous in nature. So, for example, if you look at Spaceballs, which is like a quintessential parody, satire, pastiche of like the Star Wars movies, you have these clear analogs of characters. Like Lone Star is basically an analog of Han or Luke Skywalker, but he's not. Like, he's his own character. Same thing with Dark Helmet. Dark Helmet's obviously visually inspired by Darth Vader, but he's very different. He's not the same character. And with the Walmart trilogy, yes, we touch on politics, but interestingly enough, I think we've made the characters distinct enough that it doesn't matter what your political flavor or persuasion is. I think you're going to find it funny. Case in point, I think just some guy, I think he reviewed My Hero MAGAdemia. He is not a Trump supporter at all. I would encourage anyone who has doubts to just listen to his review and see what you think. In My Hero MAGAdemia, it's kind of making fun of anime is what we're going for. In Walmart First Term Part 2, we're making fun of the comics industry. So a lot of jokes made about the current state of like Marvel, DC comics. And then with the Magalorian, it's kind of our take on the whole Star Wars fervor that happened last year. So I hope that maybe that persuades you, or at least that you check those videos out.
I mean, I did an interview with you, Wes, that I think you're going to post on Sunday, which is about this exact
Correct.
topic. That's about how to write parody, political parody, how to make a parody that can appeal to everyone and not just be a mouthpiece for your opinions, that sort of thing. I just tell people to watch that video on Sunday if they want my opinions on it. But it basically just comes down to write your characters as characters. Never lose the sound of their voice in your head. If it doesn't sound like something they would say, then it's probably something you would say. And then it's not going to read right, and it's going to feel inauthentic. You can still make fun of the individuals. We do. I mean, I feel like we're kind of we're giving Trump a little bit of a hard time. Obviously, we're kind of joking about him, but we also joke about obviously Hillary and other people that we have in these books. But a lot of Democrats have read Wall Might and thought it was very funny, and thought that we had some good jabs at Trump-isms and his personality. And especially, I didn't write it, but Chuck Dixon wrote Trump Space Force, and I just did some dialogue punch-ups on that one. And that had a lot of cross-aisle appeal to a lot of people, because they just thought it was so crazy and ridiculous. It didn't really matter to them which side of the fence the creators were on. And I think that's usually how you do a good parody, is one that can appeal to everyone, and they may not necessarily know what your opinion is.
All right, so we got another question from Trevor McGuire. Would you ever consider doing a CGC signing for like $100 tier? I think what they're saying is once you guys get it, you sign it, you slab it, or you send it off to CGC, slab it, and you offer it as a tier day one, like a 9.8 or something.
Whew.
That
is a great question, and it is expensive. So he's saying $100, which is actually very accurate. Now, Wes, you know something about this, because we have a connection here. I don't know this or not, but Wes's old stomping grounds was Heroes and Fantasies in San Antonio.
Oh.
And yeah, that's actually the store. We're very, very good friends with the store owner, and we get a lot of our books CGC graded. Now, the problem is this: it's not the price; it's the timing. There are some times when I've gotten a book. Oh my gosh, there's been some times when it's been quick, like especially if it's the lull in the con season. I have gotten a book as quick as 2 months back. But you're right. I mean, I think the most I've ever waited was I got Brett Ewan. He's the voice of Mickey Mouse, I think, in video games. I got him to sign a book for me at the last Alamo City Comic Con we did, and that took about 9 months for it to return. And we had no idea where it was. It was always saying that it was still kind of in the grading process, and it came back at 9.8, but I pretty much just forgot about it almost close to a year. So that one I'll still kind of consider, but my inclination is to say no, because I get very antsy with lateness. Like, that's a big thing for me. I always want our readers to be very happy, and I want them to be satisfied in a punctual manner. And even to this day, I get very disappointed in myself whenever someone emails me and they say something to the effect of, "Hey, it's been 2 months. Where's my book?" And I mean, I don't blame them. I can tell that they're mad, but on the other hand, I'm kind of like, wait a minute, you waited 2 months to contact me, but on the other hand, I would rather prefer that this never happen at all. And the only thing that gives me comfort is I know that everything that we ship out has a tracking number attached to it. So at the very least, I can tell them, hey, we mailed your package out to you. There's a tracking number that was sent to you. It's saying that your package was delivered or not delivered or whatever. So I would hate for people to wait like 9 months and then come banging at my door and being angry and being like, hey, where's my CGC book? Because I don't like to wait, and I know a lot of you don't like to wait either.
So you're friends with Brian Ball, correct?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. We've been talking for 2.5 years, and I don't think a week goes by where we don't talk via, on the phone or texting or sending memes to each other.
He offers slab versions of his original covers via his Patreon page, so he might be able to help you out with that. Might be something you don't do on the via the campaign though.
I think what he does is I might be wrong, but I think he gets them slabbed way beforehand. and then he offers them up. So he already has the product ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's rough. That's an interesting one, but I do think I think Doc is in here. Obviously, Pele is a collector. Those guys are always wanting to have like one reader copy, one collecting copy that never sees the light of day.
Yeah, and I think that's a kind of cool hobby. Some people ask, there's a lot of backlash in terms of, oh, why would you get a book slab because you're never going to read it? And it's like, no, we understand that. But for example, I don't know how Mark feels about this, but growing up, I never won trophies for anything. Like I never got trophies or awards for my grades or for art or anything. And so what I do is I think it's kind of an honor to get a book out. So every time Mark and I do a book, I like to keep one pristine and then slab it. I know I'm never going to read that particular book, but I can hang it on my wall or show it to my parents or friends or whoever.
I mean, I have a shelf of all the books that we've done. We've done like 10 books together, and I've done a couple separately. And so I have my my self-appreciation shelf where I just will stop and look at all the books I've done and like, yeah, I did something. I produced something.
When I was in the military, you have to frame all of your awards, and anytime you got special letters and stuff, and eventually you have, once you make a certain rank, you have an "I love me" wall. Is what we call it. When someone walks in your office,
I love you
see all the stuff you've done. Like, ooh, this guy was important.
So is there a point where you just get sick of having to frame everything, so you just stop doing a good job?
No, there is a point where you have to start choosing. You're like, so what was more impressive? There's only so much room on the wall here. I've got to take one of these down to put this, maybe this new letter from the president or something up. And so it gets pretty funny. You have to make decisions.
Now that is an honor for sure. Getting a letter from the president. That's gold.
I think I got one for retiring, but that was about it. So I'm looking here at the tiers, and one of the things that we talked about in Common America was how popular the stand figurine was.
Right.
Why is there no Walmart figurine, man? That thing would go like hotcakes.
I'll tell you the principal reason why. This is supposed to be basically because it's not necessarily a new product. It's just compiling all of our previous material together. So this is basically just for the readers. They want the pure material. The other thing too is that we have two campaigns, two pre-orders right after this one. We have Black Ops 3 and we have Common America Volume 2. And you know how we work. It's go, go, go. It's always trying to get something out. And because standees, they're the only thing that we produce that's overseas. They're produced in Great Britain. And because of everything going on and the proximity of this campaign to the Black Ops 3 campaign, I did not want to wait for a product to come in that might screw up our fulfillment in terms of our speed and delivery. So this is a slam bam kind of thank you ma'am type of production we have going on, where it's basically a book or two books or a signed book, and that's what you're going to be getting. So unfortunately,
and we get a sticker, correct?
And everyone gets a sticker, correct? And I think the first 50 backers who back physical will get a Trump Space Force patch. Some of those left over.
Nice. My son has confiscated my Trump Space Force patch, but it's not mine anymore.
I'll have to send one to you. I still have a couple still here.
You'll just check that one too, man.
People in the chat and the comments might correct me if I'm wrong about standees and the appeal of standees, but it seems like the standees of attractive female characters are better sells and more popular than big buff dudes that look like Donald Trump. So I don't know. I don't know if people would want a standee. Enough people would want a standee of Walmart as the people who wanted a standee of Common America. We couldn't make enough of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should have made a Walmart body pillow.
Yeah, we need a Walmart body pillow. Exactly.
Absolutely. So is this the last hurrah of Walmart? Is it a trilogy and you're moving on from the character?
It is. We decided, I think Mark and I were both in agreement that we kind of set out and we did what we wanted to do. And Mark has written Trump so many times and has done kind of backup dialogue on the character that we kind of know when we've exhausted our reservoir for the humor.
A joke, a joke can't go on for too long, and then it stops being funny and it starts getting annoying. Like some of those, like
Scary
Borat,
Movie.
Like Scary Movie, or like Borat. Remember, like the first time people going like very nice, and you're like, haha, that's hilarious. And then the 10,000th time, that, or like I'm Rick James, bitch, stuff like that. It was funny for 5 minutes, but people kept going and doing it for years and years and years. There's a point where you just gotta quit while you're ahead on certain jokes.
Mm-hmm. No, I can say that, but yeah, you never got a. Did we get a Walmart plush? We didn't get a body pillow. We didn't get a standee. I feel like you left things on the table here, fellas.
We did, and don't get me wrong. I think a capitalist is great, and I think that if you can make money off of honest work, that's good. But I don't know. It's not that the work is sacred. It's just that I think to us, it's franchisability. It's one of those things that you don't want to overdo. I mean, for example, for Disney right now, you have Baby Yoda, and this always happens. Like it happened with Groot. Now it's going to happen with Baby Yoda. But there's a point where you make it where you saturate the market, where there's nothing sacred about it anymore. It's kind of been tainted by an over commercialization. And I think in creating parody, that is what exists on its own, is the parody and the satire. Enjoy it for that. And if you want like the tchotchkes and stuff like that, if there was like a huge growing demand for it, then I think we would address it. But I think for the time being, I think the beauty is in the work itself, not necessarily all the stuff tangential to it.
I'm hoping for an online shop where people can go and get their tchotchkes and maybe extra books here in the future. But we haven't quite gotten there yet. I think Ryan Wilson makes a good point, and Mark and I do cover this specifically, but I wanted to throw this one to you, Tim, because you obviously weren't there when we talked about parody and satire. Trump is someone you can do comedy parody with, but the problem is people in comedy hate him and can't be funny with him because they're full of anger and hate.
Yeah, so what you do when you're writing any character is when you're trying to, if you hate something, it's very hard to make fun of it in an honest manner because everything just seems spiteful. When you are able to kind of, when you don't hate something, I think you could look at it in an honest way and then have a voice on its own. So, for example, I think one of the reasons why when people read the Walmart books, the reason they can't tell where our political slant is because Mark writes the character in the way that Trump speaks. So if you like him, he's like a Rorschach test. You will like kind of the zany things that he says. But if you don't like him, if you hate him, you're still going to think it's funny because you're going to be like, oh, that's how he talks. Haha. Like, that's pretty funny that they captured that. So it's kind of like you will see in him what you bring to the table. It's up to Mark as the writer to just elicit that out of you. And you're right, Mr. Wilson in the chat's correct. If you hate, I think that you're supposed to be making fun of or poking fun at. Very difficult to do if you absolutely hate the character or hate the person.
Mm-hmm. We do have in the live chat, Nerdettes Nerd Stand, Tristan, the first lady of comics YouTube. Thank you. I'm glad you're here and talk to me. We got to do a video sometime. We were supposed to do one back like 7 months ago, and things happened. We couldn't get it done, but it's too bad. So glad that she's here. Great channel. If you haven't been over on Nerdettes Newsstand, you're missing out on some great content. So fellas, what's the deal? What's the deal with Iconic Comics? Is this your new brand? Is it separate from you, but you're just affiliated with it? What's up with that?
So Iconic Comics is not us. So a friend of ours who runs Bell County Comic Con in Texas, he's kind of a venture capitalist. He does a lot of different things. I mean, Mark and I, at some point, have him on our channel to just talk so that people can get to know him. But for example, he actually tours with Vanilla Ice, and he's involved with a lot of his projects, whether that be his tours or his show that he had on television. I think building homes and flipping them or whatever. But he knows what we do, and one of the things that we always told him was, in the independent comic scene, there's always been this problem with fulfillment. And if you have like a big project, how are you going to get all those books out if you're on your own? Do you hire a fulfillment company? And if so, which one do you choose? Because there's, I don't think there's any one that's dedicated purely to comics. So he, running a comic convention, he just thought, well, that's something that I could do. So we tested him last year with Black Ops Hair Trigger, and we were very, very impressed because I think he fulfilled those books in 24 hours. So I think it was him and his girlfriend and a couple of volunteers. I mean, they just basically spent 48 hours packaging and bagging and boarding books and then shipping them out. And ever since
And
then,
you can see
we're
how
like,
that
all
would
right,
be a thing because comic books are such a weird size that if you're not working with them all the time, you don't know the packing material and like how everything that's going to fit in a single box and everything, right?
Exactly. And so we work very closely. I get him the book as soon as I can so that we can weigh them and get an approximate weight measurement. We have a stamps.com account so we can actually get it to a price to where we can charge a fair amount for our shipping and the processing and the labor and whatnot. And what he wants to do is he wants to grow Iconic Comics as basically being a publisher / fulfillment company of premium versions of books. So I cannot at the moment announce the 2 other creators that have essentially joined up. That announcement is going to be coming very, very soon. But basically, we told him this team gets their work out on time. This person gets their work out on time. They will bring business to you. And you know that they're going to pay you in a timely manner. And they're very, very focused on getting the books out punctually. So we hope that in 2021 that he will have a stable of at least 4 IPs. And you can go to Iconic Comics and get the premium versions of those. Now, they might be printed elsewhere in a different format or with, not as many pages. But it's the idea that he wants to be associated with kind of a premium quality and be regarded as anything that he prints under his banner is going to be delivered to you on time without any fuss or any delay or any excuses.
So Iconic Comics is it's just a kind of a startup group that he's looking to bring on brands where he's doing the fulfillment and stuff. So hopefully maybe there'll be an Iconic Comics website and people can finally go get that Walmart, full body pillow and stuff. Once you guys are big enough,
yes,
right?
And the good thing is there already is a website, iconiccomics.com. That's where we sold out of Common America within an hour last week. We put up the remaining stock and they were gone. But he does want to expand into merchandising. And so I think currently he is offering the Black Ops plush toy, which we had last year. But we are definitely going to expand and start offering some more products. I think looking at spring of 2021, I think a lot of people are going to be very impressed by what is going to be offered on that site.
Hey, yeah, that's exciting. This is all news to me. I knew a little bit about your relationship before, but now that I'm getting some more information, it makes sense that you guys can all kind of work together, help promote each other, and then you have a fulfillment center that really helps you out with all that. So you guys have like you talked about earlier, you have a system, and before these campaigns even go live, you've essentially fulfilled your campaign already. Do you see other creators kind of picking up on this? Because we see people that are getting apprehensive, whether it comes to Indiegogo, Kickstarter, with people not fulfilling on time, maybe not fulfilling with the quality that they promised during the campaign.
I think people are learning.
Yeah, some of our friends at the Needle Mover Society.
Oh, go on, Tim.
Some of our friends at the Needle Mover Society, for example, like the Napalm Brothers, that's by 6 Scale Combat. His book was finished ahead of time, and his fulfillment pretty much took place at the same time as ours. I think his actually came out at the same time that Common America did. And then I know that another guy from the Needle Mover Society, Matthew Veely, he's working on a book called Otis Stein, and he told me that he's using the same model where all the art and everything is finished, so that all he has to do is just run the pre-order and have it delivered. And I mean, I think that's great. If people are learning from us and doing something similar, that's wonderful. I know not everyone can do it because they need to raise the capital first, but if you have the means to do so, I think that that is a good faith sign to potential customers and readers, because it's like you've already invested in yourself, where it's like, I've gone the mile to do this without being paid for it, and now all I need to do is get paid for it. So I don't know, it's a risk. It can be risky for a lot of people, but on the other hand, I think that especially in this climate that we're in, I think that as far as restoring the good faith in crowdfunded projects, I think it's a safe way to go.
It's about building up your reputation. And I mean, I lost count how many campaigns Tim and I have done, but we've done many, and we fulfilled them on time, and we've met customer satisfaction. And we were discussing before we went live tonight, but our last Walmart campaign, which was Walmart's first term part 2, it made, I think, about as much as Walmart Gold Standard has made thus far, only 2 days into its campaign. But each time we run a campaign and we fulfill it and we satisfy our customers, we do it on time, we keep building our cred and our reputation, and that rolls into our next campaign, where the good faith and the good reputation, the good gossip about us goes out, and people know that if I invest in a Ninjaink, a Timothy Lim, Mark Pellegrini campaign, I'm going to get I'm going to get my book, I'm going to get it when I'm supposed to, and I know what I'm getting. I know I like their writing, and I know that I like their art. And that makes each one of our subsequent campaigns better than the last one, and keeps building that momentum. I know a lot of people, when they're just getting started, their first campaign, that's testing the waters, and you have to earn that trust in the customers and the audience. You have to do more than one campaign. You have to do several of them. But each campaign you do, and you fulfill on time, and you create a quality product, and you satisfy your customers, you'll do better on your next campaign, and then that'll keep spreading the word, and you'll do better, and again and again and again. And it's just how word of mouth works. And it's a long road, and it's a lot of work, and you have to be consistent with it. But it pays off in the long run.
So, Tim, it seemed like with the last campaign with Common America, there are kind of two things that really expanded out the success of that book. First was actually launching it on Kickstarter. It seemed to reach a larger audience, more people. And then second was, I think there was a review or recommendation from just some guy that also seemed to do very well for the book. Why weren't you able to launch Walmart Gold Standard on Kickstarter as well? Have you forsaken those readers, or was it just not right for that platform?
That is an excellent question. And first of all, I do want to say, and I've said it many times, including this morning on the Comic Book Cuts channel, I do have you to thank for that, because I consulted 4 people in terms of going onto Kickstarter, and you were one of them. And I don't even think that you beat around the bush. You said, yes, absolutely, you do need to go to Kickstarter, because there's a bigger audience there, and you're going to reach a marketplace of people who have never heard of you. And that was absolutely true. So, I mean, that's a great question as to why we didn't go there for this one. The reality is that Kickstarter does have people who are running it who might not like the brand that we bring to it. So obviously it is a political satire, political parody. And because it is a platform that might be run by people who are not sympathetic to that, I felt that they were very gracious in letting us use their platform the first time around. And since then, other people have joined or have tried and been successful. For example, like John Della Rose had his books on there. Doug TenNapel had Earthworm Jim on there. Even Mike Miller, who I think was denied the first time, he was allowed back in when he used a non-political book. So rather than try and risk it, I decided that, well, we started this on Indiegogo with the Walmart book and with Trump Space Force. I think it's just safe to say that we can stick with it. And I've noticed that the Kickstarter backers, they are more likely to go onto Indiegogo and cross platforms than Indiegogo backers are to Kickstarter. In fact, I've been contacted by several Kickstarter backers within the last 24 hours who said, "Hey, congrats on the Indiegogo campaign. I'm backer number whatever. I wish you the best." There's not a single time where someone from Kickstarter has been like, "Hey, I'm here on Indiegogo. I'm not going over there you're gonna have to come over here to Kickstarter. Indiegogo backers, however, that's very constant, almost on a weekly basis, where it's like, I would have backed you, but you're not on Indiegogo, you're on Kickstarter. I'm not going to back you until you come over here. So I think that we're able to satisfy our core readership, and again, be gracious enough to Kickstarter to not, I guess, tread on their territory with something that they might not like.
So you're respecting the platform, but understanding that you do want to go back to Kickstarter in the future, probably with Black Ops and absolutely with Common America too.
Absolutely. So we're going to go back in, I think, the first week of July. We're not going to launch Black Ops 3 until Walmart is fulfilled. So right now we're looking at early July on Kickstarter, and then August for Indiegogo, and then the same thing for Common America too. And it'll always be this jumping of platforms between the two. We're always going to try and break it up a little bit so that we can offer something a little bit different, but not deviate so much that one feels like they're missing out on something that they're getting from the other platform.
So we do have a question. What's the difference between the percentage of their cut between Kickstarter and Indiegogo? Do you mind talking numbers?
Yes, absolutely. Very quickly, if you include the cut that the platform takes plus the credit card processing fees, Kickstarter takes 10%, Indiegogo takes roughly 8%. Now, here's where that difference matters. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, if Indiegogo takes 2% less, then it only makes sense to stay with Indiegogo. The key difference, though, is that the platform for Kickstarter is much greater. So they take a bigger cut for sure, but you also have a greater readership and more eyes on you over there. So it's a give and take, and honestly, I think if you do the numbers, I think it evens out. But they are both very competitive in that sense.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it all kind of worked out. And it seems like times are changing at Kickstarter. We know that they had to do some layoffs, which I'm not happy about. I'm not happy anyone's losing their job during these hard times. But of course, one of those was the one of the comic gatekeepers. We did a video on it. Hopefully that they open it up and it's a more of a free platform, because really when I think of Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's like it's a mechanism for people that want to get into an industry, whether it be comic books, novels, movies, technology, to go around the gatekeepers, go directly to the customers and say, this is what I've got. And if they want to support you, you don't have to deal with that, and you can go direct to customers. What do you think about when you think of Indiegogo and Kickstarter?
Well, I think we live in terms of getting your work out there and making it available to a wide audience, we live in unprecedented times. I mean, not just Indiegogo and Kickstarter, but I mean, I've published on Amazon Kindle and Amazon Direct. I mean, if you create something, you don't have to worry about the medium of delivering it to the public anymore, to the consumer. Now, in the past, you could write a novel, but then you had to find a publisher who would publish it for you. Otherwise, no one would ever see it. If you wanted to make a cartoon, it wasn't like you had, a computer and software like Toon Boom. You can just make a cartoon at home. You had to find resources and someone to fund it and all that. But now you can make a cartoon on your own, just as long as you've got the time and the talent to do it. And then you can upload it on YouTube or wherever you want. I mean, this is, and at least in the in human history, it's never been this easy to get your work out there for people to see. If anything, the problem now is that there's too much work out there. And the hard part to get your stuff seen is that it gets lost in the shuffle of all the content that's out there.
The signal to noise.
Yeah, exactly. It's like cable was better when it was 120 channels. Now I know it's 10,000 channels and you don't know what to watch. That sort of situation. But I think both platforms have been great. I understand that audiences and customers some are loyal to one, some are loyal to the other, and some don't mind crossing over and having two accounts. But as long as we can serve everyone, we will serve as many people as we possibly can. And in regards to our international customers who are probably about to ding me on that, that's why we have the digital tier. So now we can serve our international customers. And if you absolutely want a physical copy of one of our books, there are courier services out there like Parcel Monkey, who comes recommended by Alex from Cursova. And you can use them, and you have to make an account with them and make the arrangements with them, but you can get a physical copy that way. Otherwise, we've got the digital copy, and you'll be able to read and enjoy our work.
That is absolutely correct. Overseas it can be very difficult going through Indiegogo or Kickstarter, just the sheer numbers. Although when I ordered some books from a European creator, it wasn't that expensive. It's just when it's Americans.
Yeah, and it's because of each country's, I guess, postal rates. Because, for example, it's actually more expensive to mail a book to Canada at the moment than it is to like Great Britain. And you would think that would be the reverse, just based on distance. But it's all based on
Import
how.
fees or something.
Yes,
huh?
exactly. Yep. And Canada. This is a really quick
I
anecdotal
got a Canada story
but,
too. When you're done,
people have been
Mark, right
hounding
there.
us. Oh my gosh, you got to open up the international. Yeah. So here's my Canada story. So people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're killing us. We want some books, and we're in Canada." So I had two friends. I don't think they're gonna mind me saying who they are, but one of them is like Rick, and the other one is Josh. And I said, "Okay, guys, here's what we're gonna do. Because I've known you guys for a long time. We're gonna mail you some books." And they're like, "Yay!" So I mailed both of them. They're both in Canada. Rick's book arrived 5 weeks later, and he was like, "Hey, do you have the tracking number?" And I said, "Yeah, here's the tracking number." And he said, "It says it's delivered." And I said, "Yeah, that's what it's saying on my side too." And he's like, "What the heck is going on?" So then he gets back to me a few days later, and he's like, they put it in the wrong postal box. Like, I had to fill out paperwork and have them hunt it down because I didn't know where it was. I mean, the address listed was correct, but they must have put it in someone else's locker. But thankfully I have it. And then Josh, his arrived I think 2 weeks later, so it was 7 weeks after, and his standee was broken. And I just told them both. I said, "Canada, until you do something with your postal service, I'm not mailing anything to Canada, because I'll just be frank. Between Mark and I, we have a lot of haters, and because we're very generous with our refund policy and with our replaceability policy, this actually happened to us on Trump's Space Force. But we had some people who did not like us, and they were international, and I'm pretty sure it was coordinated. But they would say, like, "Hey, how come my book hasn't arrived?" And I would track it, and I'd say, "Your book arrived. I tracked it." "Well, I never got it. Do you want me to go on social media and complain about it?" And I'd be like, "No." So I would just mail them another one. 2 weeks later, "I never got my book," and I would track it. It's like, "No, it arrived at your doorstep. I never got it. Do you want me to go on social media and complain?" And I'd be like, "I'm just gonna give you a refund," because at this point I'm gonna be like $40 in the hole just based on shipping alone. So I mean, I know that's not everyone out there, but Mark and I are in a very different situation. We have a lot of people who don't like us. I'll just be very frank about that. And we have more to lose internationally than we do domestic. At least domestically, if you're telling me you're not getting your package, I will probably just drive it over to you to guarantee that you got it. I can't do that internationally.
Yeah, I mean, so Canada, I know a lot of people say like, "Come on, we're literally right there, I'm closer to where you are than Alaska is. Can't you get the book to me?" And I mean, I had a Canada experience. In fact, I'm experiencing it right now. So last week I went on Amazon, and in the same order, I ordered 2 Blu-rays. One was being fulfilled from Mexico, and one was being fulfilled from Canada. They both shipped the same day. I got the Mexico one yesterday, and the one from Canada isn't expected to get here until sometime between June 10th and June 27th, and no tracking number. So I don't know what's going on with Canada's post office. They got to get their shit together. But no, Canada is not easier to ship to just because it's closer to the United States of America. I mean, we'd have an easier time shipping to Madrid than we would to Canada.
Yeah. So I do want to say thank you to Fatal J. This channel has the best comic content. Just saying. Well, thank you. And we also have the very best channel viewers, and that's why we're so successful here. And to back up with what you guys were talking about, what was the name of the comic publisher that was doing Ravage Kill All Men to begin with?
That was Cautionary.
So Cautionary Comics was essentially bankrupted by refunding or having to refund overseas backers, correct? Because they kept trying to deliver them, and they had to keep paying fees.
I didn't know that, but if that's what went down, then man, that sucks.
I don't think it was on purpose. It was just there were some overseas backers, and they ended up taking all these kind of unforeseen expenses. That basically is one of the reasons that it's no longer in business, as far as I.
I mean, that's that story is is not a unique story just in general. A lot of new businesses and a lot of productions simply don't succeed or don't actually fulfill their production because they were unforeseen expenses, exactly as you described. I mean, how many movies where, you know, they do crowdfunding or they get money, you know, they're like, oh, all I need is like $500,000 to make my movie. And then all of a sudden something pops up they didn't anticipate, like, oh, what, I got to pay for union labor? Oh, crap. And then all of a sudden $500,000 doesn't get you 10 minutes of footage and it's over. I mean, video game Kickstarters, that happens all the time. They keep over promising and then they realize, oh, we don't have enough money to even make the game. It's just such a common thing.
All right, so we do have 2 final questions, and I'll get you guys out of here. I know it's probably getting late back there in America. It's almost 10 a.m. here. So Ryan Wilson wants to know, where can we get a copy of Trump Space Force?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's still available on Antarctic Press. So you can go to their website and buy a copy there. Now, keep in mind that the Antarctic Press versions are stripped down. So they're cheaper, which is good. So they're not the same price as the crowdfunded book, but you're going to be missing some content. And I think in the case of Trump Space Force, I think it's missing 12 pages. It's not square bound. It's saddle stitched, so it's stapled like a traditional comic book, and it's not a cardstock cover. So you can always go to Antarctic Press and check out what they have to sell. They typically will sell our retail versions there.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps, you know, do you know if people are selling those on the eBay? Maybe you can get one for a lot of money.
You might be able to. A lot of people, they like to credit me with that book, which is flattering, but it is Chuck Dixon's book. So I'm guessing. Yes, I just did the art for it. So I don't know. I think his signature actually fetches a pretty penny. Now, he didn't sign any copies with me on that one, but I'm guessing you can probably get it for a very good price if you get his signature on it.
I have Trump Space Force up here, but I can't see it right now. Maybe I'll break it out later. So Gigantic Android is asking also, did you guys mention if Antarctic Press will be putting out Common America in the comic shops?
Yes, actually, I'm pretty sure I addressed this on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter as far as our updates are concerned. I have spoken with Antarctic Press, and they are going to put a version of it out in stores. It's just that I do not know the details of it as far as a release date is concerned. This version of Common America, however, will be another stripped down version. So it's going to be missing 8 pages of content. So it does not have the epilogue. It does not have the concept art. None of that. It does not have the holographic cover. And we switched out the back cover. So it's not going to be Cute Sexy Robots. It's going to be Luigi Terrell. He did a different back cover. And again, that one will not be square bound. It's going to be a traditionally stapled binding. But again, typically it is going to be cheaper than the crowdfunded version. I think the crowdfunded version we were selling for $10, just based on Black Ops Hair Trigger. They typically will sell it for like $3 or $4 less.
Beautiful. Well, fellas, I think that's about going to wrap us up. I think we covered basically everything. Mark, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And people, if you enjoy what Mark has to say, he's going to be back on the channel on Sunday. We're going to talk about parody and satire in the age of Trump and some of the challenges that come along with that. Mark, is there anything that you wanted to say to the viewers before we wrap this up?
No, other than thank you. The response to Walmart Gold Standard, even I didn't see that coming. So I'm actually very grateful to everybody who's picking up that book and any of our books. And I just want to assure them that Tim is working hard on drawing Black Ops 3, and I'm working hard on drawing Common America 2. So we're 2 books ahead, and we're just going to keep putting out books. And we hope you stay with us and enjoy them.
Well, thank you, man. Hey, Tim, really appreciate you coming on the channel. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm going to edify you here for a bit. So if you bought Common America on Kickstarter and you were happy with it, then you have Wes to thank, because he was the person who, and he'll tell you this, I think he was the last of 4 people I consulted. And he definitively said, without hesitation, yes, you need to go to Kickstarter and start there and see where that takes you. So we would not have had any of the success that we have had so far in terms of the meteoric nature of it if it wasn't for you. So thank you for being on the forefront as far as a customer advocate and for providing us some very good advice. Seems like you have your ear to the ground, and you kind of have a good mind for these types of things that helps us out a lot as well.
Well, I do appreciate that, but yeah, I remember when you were talking about it, I was like, why would you cut down your audience if you can do both, right?
Yeah, that seems like common sense in hindsight. But again, when I'm the one in the weeds, it's really difficult to see past it sometimes. So that's why we appreciate what you do, because you typically will bring things from not necessarily an insider perspective, but you have a very well-rounded approach to your channel and the voices that you bring in to kind of opine on these things.
Well, I do appreciate it, and we had a lot of fun. I want to bring Tim back onto the channel for something, but I'm waiting for something to happen in the news that we can talk about, because Tim doesn't want to talk about anything he's not an expert in.
That's right, but I will tell you this. So I'm thinking within the next week or two, you are going to be getting the major updates with Iconic Comics, and I think that's going to be something worth talking about once that announcement drops.
Absolutely. When that information comes out, I would love you to be my Iconic Comics insider. Come on here and explain to everybody what's going on and why it's a great news for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Wes. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, guys, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't checked it out, definitely go to the Indiegogo website. It's there on the screen. If that's not easy enough, it's actually in the video description as well. And definitely support these guys. They're doing great things. The book is already made, people. There's no risk taken. As soon as the campaign is over, it's going to be shipped, and then they're moving on to their next campaigns that they're finishing up right now. So big things happening for Tim and Mark, and sounds like Iconic Comics is on the come, getting bigger by the day. And congratulations, guys. You really deserve it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good one, Wes.
Salamapo, everybody, and wipe your ass.